Last week we saw Bournemouth splash out £19 million on Dominic Solanke, in the latest example of clubs paying over the odds for an English player. So today we're going to look at each Premier League club and pick out one English player they overspent on since the summer of 2008. Arsenal, Callum Chambers. A few years ago you only had to play a few games as a Southampton Academy graduate and one of the big boys would snap you up. That's exactly what happened to Callum Chambers in 2014, as the Gunners paid £16 million to the defender after one season playing in the top flight. 4.5 years on and Chambers is still not an Arsenal regular, taking in his second loan spell away from the Emirates, with a second relegation at the Championship a very real possibility. Bournemouth, Dominic Solanke. The inspiration behind this video, just what were Bournemouth thinking? They've signed a player with one Premier League goal for more than Alan Shearer cost Newcastle back in 1996. And this isn't the first time Bournemouth have paid over the odds for a young Englishman from Liverpool. They spent $15 million on Jordan Ibe, and look how that worked out. Brighton, Sam Baldock. In fairness to Brighton, they haven't really wasted money on English players, as they've only just started splashing the cash since they became a Premier League club. We've had to go all the way back to 2014 when the Seagulls were a Championship club and spent a reported £2 million on League One striker Sam Baldock. He didn't score too many goals in blue and white, and has now swapped stripes for hoops over at Reading. Burnley, Ben Gibson. Previously touted being worth £30 million, Burnley might think $15 million for Ben Gibson was a bargain, a joint club record fee. But the defender was on the back of an OK season at Middlesbrough, having impressed the year before as the Borough were relegated. Since arriving, Gibson hasn't had a chance to prove he's worth the fee, due to a combination of not being selected and then being injured. Cardiff, Bobby Reid. This summer, Cardiff needed a striker to boost their chances of survival, so they decided to spend £10 million on Bristol-born striker Bobby Reid. In fairness to the forward, he had just scored 19 goals for the Robins, but that was the only time in his career that he'd been prolific. With just 2 Premier League goals so far, it looked like Cardiff overspent on an English player who didn't really have a great track record in hindsight. Chelsea, Danny Drinkwater. Ever since winning the Premier League, Danny Drinkwater has been rated higher than he actually is. While he was great alongside N'Golo Kante, one man was crucial to that pairing, and it was the one who's since gone on to win the World Cup. As for Drinkwater, he somehow managed to demand a huge fee when leaving Leicester, with Chelsea spending a whopping £35 million for an English midfielder who actually has just one impressive Premier League season under his belt. It's no wonder no one's taken him off Chelsea's hands. Crystal Palace, Connor Wickham. When Sunderland signed Connor Wickham in 2011, they overspent, but at least the lad had a lot of potential. When he arrived at Palace it was 2015 and Wickham still cost the Eagles £9 million. Since arriving at Selhurst Park he scored just 7 goals, missing a ton of action due to injury. He's never hit double figures in his career, so why have teams spent so much money on Connor Wickham? Everton, Michael Keane. When Everton finally got some money to spend, many teams just took it to the cleaners, and that's exactly what Burnley did. After one impressive season in the top flight, Everton paid an initial £25 million for Michael Keane, which could rise to 30. When he arrived he was in the England squad, but after one season at Goodison Park, Keane was out of Southgate's 3-line setup and missed the summer of love. Keane has a lot of work to do to prove he's really worth the investment and not a player with an inflated fee just because he's English. Fulham, ALFIE MAWSON. Speaking of defenders with an inflated fee just because they're English, that brings us to ALFIE MAWSON, who cost Fulham £20 million this summer, and their goal difference tells you everything you need to know really. It cost £20 million to sign an average English centre-half. It's no wonder so many clubs look at foreign options instead. Huddersfield Town, Alex Pritchard. £11 million is what it cost Huddersfield to bring in Alex Pritchard, who was apparently meant to be the creative spark they're missing. For reference, that's only a little bit less than Liverpool paid for Xherdan Shaqiri. As you can tell by Huddersfield's toothless attack, Pritchard wasn't worth the money, and Norwich duped the Terriers out of a decent wedge of cash for one of their young English players, something they have a habit of doing. Leicester City, James Maddison. What do you know, another young creative player that Norwich sold for huge money because he's English. £20 million was a lot of money for James Maddison, but at least the Foxes have got themselves a great player, and to be fair, they haven't really overspent on anyone other English players, so this was the only real example, and they managed to get away with it. Liverpool, Andy Carroll. The Reds got seriously mugged off by Newcastle when they bought Andy Carroll. They paid £35 million for the traditional English forward, strong and powerful in the air, a defender's nightmare. That's great if you play direct football, but Liverpool didn't, so Carroll's signing was a disaster, and a really expensive one at that. To be fair, Liverpool aren't bothered about if he's English or not, they'll overspend on anyone, even Belgium's Christian Benteke. Manchester City, JOLEON, LESCOTT. When City first became rich, they couldn't attract the best players in the world, but still had to pay a premium, which is why Everton charged them £22 million for defender JOLEON LESCOTT. A decent player, but not £22 million good back in 2009. City ultimately got away with it, with Lescott forming a title-winning partnership with Vincent Kompany, and they've since gone on to overspend on English players such as John Stones and Kyle Walker, who yet again seem to be getting away with it. Manchester United's Luke Shaw. Had it not been for injury or Jose Mourinho, Luke Shaw could be the best left-back in the world right now, which is what Man United would have hoped for when they forked out a whopping £30 million to make him the most expensive teenager in the world at the time. In fairness to Shaw, he had played a lot for Southampton before joining Man United, but even then, £30 million was excessive for a left-back in 2014. Newcastle United, Jacob Murphy. Another example of Norwich getting more money than they should for a player, Newcastle must regret every penny of the £12 million they spent on Jacob Murphy. On paper it looked great, a bright young player who's a boyhood Newcastle fan. But fast forward 18 months and Murphy has made zero impression in black and white, while players who cost much less than him outperform the winger. Southampton, Danny Ings. It's a deal they're yet to pay for, but next summer Southampton will have to spend £18 million to Liverpool to conclude Danny Ings' permanent move. For reference, that's another English forward that has barely played, never mind scored, that Liverpool have got more money for than what they paid for Philippe Coutinho. Unless he bangs in another 10 goals this season, I think Southampton are going to overspend on Danny Ings. Tottenham, David Bentley. To Tottenham's credit, they haven't been sucked into overspending on English players too often. They spent less than £10 million combined on Dele Alli and Eric Dyer. But back in 2008 they went a bit silly, spending an initial £15 million on David Bentley, a man who fancied himself as the next David Beckham. If he was the next David Beckham, then £15 million was a snip. But the only issue was that he wasn't the next David Beckham. Not at all. Watford, Andre Gray. The Hornets don't have a rich history of splashing the cash, and you can see why. When they do, they waste it. In search of a striker, Watford turned to Andre Gray in 2017 on the back of scoring 9 Premier League goals for Burnley. The Clarets expectedly took the piss, asking for £18 million, yet amazingly Watford obliged. Would he have cost that much if he wasn't English? No chance. West Ham, Jordan Hugill. A signing from last January, why did West Ham think it was a great idea to spunk £10 million on Jordan Hugill? The Middlesbrough-born striker had only scored 8 championship goals for Preston, yet somehow they were able to get an 8-figure fee for him. He made just 3 appearances for West Ham, was sent out on loan, while Preston are worse off without him, so nobody won, except the Preston owner, who is significantly richer. And finally Wolves, Benik Afobe. To be fair, this isn't a great example, but Wolves are normally spending their money on Portuguese players nowadays, forget the English. But in the summer they surprisingly made Afobe's loan deal permanent, paying Bournemouth £10 million. On the face of it, this didn't look great. A lot of money for someone who struggles in the Premier League, then they pulled up the wool over everyone's eyes and immediately sold him to Stoke for even more money, the bloody mugs. So that's one English player that each Premier League club is overpaid for. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.